Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you the headlines from the past week here in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days. The Spokane Arena's parking lot may be mostly empty now, but the parking lot at the Ruby River Hotel certainly isn't. And it'll stay that way this weekend when the national spotlight turns to Spokane for the next two rounds of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament.
So all the teams are coming into Spokane in the next couple days, and we'll be here through the weekend playing to move on to the Final Four.
That's Ruby Hospitality's Dan Zimmer, who oversees hotels such as the Montvale Hotel and Ruby River Hotel. He says most of their 350 to 400 rooms in Spokane's downtown core will be fully booked this weekend, and expects to see the same with other hotels. Part of the crunch comes down to the quick turnaround for teams moving on in the NCAA tournament. Some of the teams coming to Spokane include Ole Miss, Louisiana State University, and UConn.
They were just qualifying a few days ago, so their fan base didn't know where they're playing. So they all this week has been kind of crazy with everybody trying to find accommodation.
Compounding the problem, the Pacific Northwest Qualifier Volleyball Tournament continues its second weekend at the Spokane Podium. That event draws tens of thousands of athletes and fans, with around 800 teams playing over 2 weekends. More teams means less room.
All the hotels in the city, for the most part, feel compression from this weekend. Not just the downtown, but into the valley, out to the West Plains, even to Cheney. All the hotels are impacted. And
so for fans trying to find a hotel in Spokane this weekend, good luck, because you're going to need it.
After 24 hours in the ICU, Freddie Byerly's family says he was pronounced dead due to blunt force trauma to the head. His family says he was like any other kid who loved his family, and he will be missed greatly.
It literally took 3 minutes before he was gone.
Freddie Byerly's mother, Nikki Lovett, recalls the last moments of her 5-year-old son's life. He was hit and killed by a baseball to the head while playing with a family member on Wednesday. Nikki says the impact to the head put her son in cardiac arrest. They rushed her son to the hospital, and after a day in the ICU, doctors told her and the rest of her family there was nothing more they could do to try and save him.
They found out that he was internally bleeding and that nothing could have really stopped it because it kept swelling.
Nikki says Freddie had pre-existing conditions of asthma and rhinovirus that created complications in his breathing prior to the incident. She, as well as her fiancé, are not working currently as they're processing their loss and are taking care of Freddie's 2 siblings. She says her time of grieving is showing her how important it is to cherish time with those closest to her.
Always tell your loved ones you love them. Always give them a hug when you say goodbye, because you never know what's going to happen.
If you'd like to find out how you can help the family during this time, there is a link to a webpage to do so on our website. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Well, we first told you about this back when it happened, this near deadly overdose in February. Michaela Cameron faced several charges after her 2-year-old son overdosed on her fentanyl, and now her time in jail is over. Cameron pleaded guilty to endangerment with a controlled substance and will be released with credit for time served, 51 days in jail. She was given a waiver for being a first-time offender, but this is far from the first or even last time that we have seen children exposed to fentanyl. In late February, a Spokane Valley 3-year-old had to be given Narcan after eating his mother's fentanyl pills. And then earlier this month, a 1-year-old survived after playing with his mother's fentanyl foil. And Cameron's son survived his overdose. It happened in a Spokane Valley hotel room after handling a spoon that she admitted had fentanyl powder on it.
This case demonstrates how drugs make people make bad choices, and those choices can hurt people. And I'm sure that when you're clean and sober, you'd never ever want to hurt your little boy.
Cameron will be in community custody for the next year and must have a drug dependency evaluation and go through any recommended drug treatment. And Spokane County opioid overdoses have just skyrocketed in recent years. Numbers from 2019 show 40 people died from the drug, and last year fentanyl was to blame for 78% of all drug-related overdoses in the county. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
Llewellyn Dixon's attorneys say she was taken into custody because of a misdemeanor conviction from 24 years ago. Her family says this is a shock. She's traveled outside the country plenty of times before without any problems. Llewellyn Dixon's flight home to the Philippines was supposed to be routine.
She flew to the Philippines last year, and we actually flew to Turkey as well. No problem.
Lonnie Madriaga is Dixon's niece. She says her sister was with Dixon at SeaTac last month when they returned home.
She waited an hour, and then 2 hours passed by, 3 hours passed by, and we're like, whoa, something is wrong.
Eventually, they got a call. Dixon was detained at the Northwest ICE processing facility in Tacoma. Alex Reby is an immigration attorney with the firm representing Dixon. Reby says what's happening to Dixon isn't illegal, but would have been considered highly unusual in previous administrations.
The law hasn't changed, but the implementation of if somebody's deportable, we will issue them a notice to appear. And if we can detain them, we will detain them. I think that has certainly been the case in what we've been seeing.
The tripping point? A 2001 conviction in a bank embezzlement case, a non-violent misdemeanor charge for someone who has lived here for 50 years. Dixon came to the United States at the age of 14 in 1974.
It's the removal proceedings, but it's really the detention that's the harder pill to swallow, because otherwise she could have just applied for relief from removal for which she's eligible on a non-detained setting.
Dixon didn't have issues traveling and returning before. Madriaga says, had she known about the 2001 conviction,
There is no way I would have allowed her to fly.
Dixon will remain in ICE custody until her next hearing in July. Her attorney advises that if you are a green card holder who has any sort of conviction, no matter how small, see an attorney before traveling outside of the United States. For Facing Race, Sharon Yu, King 5 News.
Spokane is seeing record demand for youth and adult sports. There's just one problem. There's not enough spaces to play.
Right now, we're turning away middle school kids that want to play baseball.
That could change if voters approve upcoming ballot measures between Spokane Parks and the district. One proposed project, which would be funded by a school bond and a parks levy, would add all-weather and turf fields within all 5 of the city's high school boundaries, says Dr. Adam Swinyard.
It's up to 15 all-weather fields across the whole system of the city, and that's a pretty historic investment.
And couldn't come at a better time for Spokane Indian Senior VP Otto Klein.
Fields, and one of the benefits that we can have is accessibility. like we have today. This is a beautiful day, but this field behind me is almost unplayable because of the recent weather.
Around 4,000 kids play in the Indians Youth League, which uses school and city fields. Uses them when they can.
We need to make the days longer with our field conditions, and then adding lights to a lot of these facilities is going to be a game changer.
The addition of lights and all-weather technology would mean kids and rec league adults could play even longer into the night, but it's also a boost in longevity over traditional grass.
If we had a soccer practice or a baseball practice, it could tear up a field enough to where then we have to take it offline again.
The goal? To have a green play space within a short walk or drive, no matter where you live.
They're driving across the county to get their kids to practice. And then for many of our families, for our single parents, that's an insurmountable barrier for their student. And then it turns into a no. And a no turns into a kid sitting at home by themselves on a screen.
Dr. Swinyard says these outdoor play fields are one of those additional joint proposals, meaning that the school's bond and the park's levy would both have to pass for them to come to fruition. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
I had a chance to speak with people who have experienced homelessness about opportunities they never thought that they would get through the Dignified Workday program.
Awesome. Makes me feel just absolutely awesome.
With nicer weather and more events coming to the inland northwest, the city of Spokane is shifting its focus to clean up highly frequented areas throughout the city, like downtown.
The goal of the effort is for a healthy and safe downtown, so everybody can be feel welcome and feel safe while they're downtown.
That's Luis Garcia, the director of Code Enforcement and Parking Services in Spokane. He says the city, along with contracted crews, have been and will continue to work together to clean up garbage, graffiti, and homeless encampments throughout the area. One of those contracted crews being the Dignified Workday program through Career Path Services, which is unique specifically to Spokane.
And these are people that are experiencing homelessness that are part of this workforce.
This program gives these people a chance to clean up the streets they once slept on and become contributing members to society.
Yeah, I couldn't ask for anything more.
People like Robert Sturch.
It's pretty cool knowing that I, in my own little way, am making a difference.
Sturch says he has been experiencing homelessness for the last 3 years, but has now been able to work on getting back on his feet thanks to this program that took a chance on people in hard situations.
And the process of getting back on my feet is still an ongoing process, but you know what? I'm just one more step closer. That's pretty much how I see it. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, and eventually you get there.
The Dignified Workday program started just over a year ago and has close to 80 people currently on the payroll. They tell me on a weekly basis, crews of 4 to 5 typically clean up 20 to 30 bags of trash and close to 12 needles. Other participants I talked to off camera say they are grateful for these jobs because it gives them a chance to prove to the city and themselves that they are not undeserving of opportunities.
You know what? There's two birds with one stone. Makes me feel better because I stay busy, I make money, and then it helps also clean up the city and makes it a nicer place to be. So
the managers of Dignified Workday say that they can only hire as many people for the jobs that they are contracted to do, so they're very grateful for the city for the year-long contract that they have provided, and in the future they hope to get more jobs to help more people get back on their feet. In Spokane, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Alicia Benson, the Chief Executive Officer of Greater Spokane Inc., also known as GSI, brought attention to the 2025 legislative agenda and overall goals for the communities and families of Spokane. Elements of the Greater Spokane Inc. 2025 plan and agenda were presented under 4 cornerstones.
These give us focus and help us to elevate the priorities that ensure Spokane's voice is heard, because at the end of the day, it's about a shared commitment to our future.
Cornerstone 1, convening around critical issues, which include establishing strong business climates, expanding attainable housing to attract workforce, advance transportation projects, and support licensure compacts to meet demand of healthcare and education workforce. Cornerstone 2, strengthening workforce infrastructure.
Our future depends on growing and keeping our own talent. That means helping students explore careers early, making sure they have places to live, and ensuring that families have access to affordable child care.
This focuses on a new 5-year partnership called In Schools, which aligns businesses and school districts to support a strong economy. Cornerstone 3, supporting small and underserved businesses.
In May, we're launching a new free member partnership in order to support our locally owned micro businesses and restaurants that's being underwritten by Canopy Credit Union and Riverbank.
They are also applying for grant funding to distribute more than $150,000 in grants for the Spokane Inclusive Business Catalyst Program. Cornerstone 4 and the final, cultivating the innovation economy. GSI helped facilitate the official certification for the Hilliard Creative District that they will receive in 2025, which makes it the first of its kind in Spokane County. In 2024, GSI secured $48 million in federal funding to expand training, infrastructure, and manufacturing equipment, which is why this year they want to effort developing talent in the health, clean energy, and manufacturing industries across Spokane. With all that said, Greater Spokane Inc. is keeping busy.
With the boomtown growth across Spokane, Benson says it will take a collaborated effort across the Spokane community. She says optimistically to event attendees, "Let's go, Spo." Reporting in downtown Spokane, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download on Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
Let's go to work. Seek.
Today we want to introduce you to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office newest canine. This is Canine Hattie and her handler, Detective Roman Meyer.
Seek.
From my perspective as the sheriff, it is a great opportunity for us to have a resource in this community to not only help us combat people who are preying on children and people who are trafficking individuals, but also have a canine inside the department that can help people deal with trauma, stressful situations.
We went to training about 5 months ago. They had about 25 dogs roaming around the conference, and one thing led to another. Started asking some questions, started going to their classes, and kind of decided that that's something that we needed to have in our department. Good girl. There is a chemical that gets put on all of those components that prevents them from overheating. The acronym, the short name for it, is TPPO. She goes after it. So anything that contains or stores data, so micro SD cards, SD cards, thumb drives, cell phones, computers, laptops, anything of that sort is something that she will alert to and is trained to alert to. Hey, show me. Yes! Sit. Just a cell phone, thrown into the bushes. Stay. We're looking forward to getting to work and getting out there and finding devices, helping bring suspects to justice and save children and save all the victims out there.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Thank you so much for spending a part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.